Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Chris with Inside the U. Just got done watching day one of fall preseason practices as the Hurricanes get ready for that September 4th season opener at Stanford. It's year 24 for me of covering the Hurricanes, and definitely a lot of excitement with that as well. A lot of travel already this year, going to the Fiesta Bowl in Arizona, follow that up with events at Alabama, Indiana, North Carolina, also Jacksonville, Gainesville, Bradenton, just got back from South Carolina. But I'm glad to be here in Coral Gables covering this team once again. Again, a lot of excitement. And Cristobal talked about it after practice, about how this team has received a lot of praise in the offseason, a lot of high expectations. Fans are excited. Outside, the media is expecting big things for this team. I expect them to be a preseason top 10 team, certainly a contender to get to the playoffs and make another deep run. But, he talked about it's really important for his team to understand, it's important for his staff to get through to these guys that, they've got to put in the work. And it starts essentially in preseason practices, although the summer training program, summer off-season program, and then spring as well. Everything matters when it comes to getting ready for the season. So that 1-0 mentality that we've been hearing quite a bit since Cristobal's been here, that's going to really pop up, and the players are talking about it too. The returners understand. Mark Fletcher talked after practice. He understands, what it takes and what it will take to get this team back and have another successful season. Look, there's definitely news that came out, but I want to stay with the positives with this team because of the excitement surrounding it, starting with quarterback Darian Mensah. Watching him today, again, viewing period about 30 minutes for us. We were able to film and get photos for the first 4 periods and then watch another 3 periods after that without filming. So watch some one-on-ones there. But just with Mensah, just watching him kind of go through a lot of things, and they're being a lot of routes today, as they typically do, whether it's the curl routes or a quick hitch or the shallow cross. They're doing all kinds of all these different kinds of routes, and these concepts are going to be really important for this team, but for this offense. Like, it doesn't matter if it's in quick game or drop back or whatever they might want to do, even empty. So it just depends how they kind of want to put things together. But one thing that stands out to me of watching the wide receivers, and look, let's stay with Malachi Toney. There's obviously a lot of excitement with him, and I said this in the spring, but I'm watching him again today. He just looks better, and it doesn't mean he's going to necessarily have a better season, but he just looks better as a player. And today in particular, watching him go through his routes, go through the drills, one thing that he kind of added, he hadn't always done this in the past, but he's catching the ball, whether it's on indie drills or on air, catching from the quarterbacks, and he's making a move, a decisive, quick move after the catch. And not all guys do that, and he hasn't done that in the past. I even look back to some spring video, and I didn't see him doing the things I saw today, and I'll post a video so you guys can see it as well. But it definitely looks like a point of emphasis for him of not just getting the catch, but let's get some quick yards after the catch. Make a quick move on your defender if he's right there, and get upfield. And then that's what I saw today. I thought it was great. Again, he looks very sharp in his drills, very sharp in his routes. The speed is there. Everyone continues to talk about how hard he works. So I think he's in store for a big season. Again, he just looks better. He definitely does, and that's a great place to start, especially where they can kind of put him in the offense there. And they have the ability when he's there in the slot. And I saw it today. You can run those outs to the sideline with them. You can run the crosses over the middle to really free him up, get in space, depending on man or zone defenses, depending on what teams want to do. But he's just tough to guard. He can do a lot of different things, and I think he's going to do a lot of different things with this offense with Mensah. And then certainly the other wide receivers, I'm thinking about Josh Moore right there at that X position. I think that's a good spot for him in this offense with how they want to kind of distribute things. And, and we'll kind of see how Vantravius Jacobs, had a good interview with him from Media Day, and also Cam Vaughn, Cooper Barkate looks to be ahead of those two, but just how everything kind of fits together with their wide receivers. But one of the big things that Coach mentioned today, he made the announcement that tight end Luka Gilbert will be out for the season with an injury. Suffered recently, and that is disappointing because I thought he could be a big part of this offense. I thought last year gaining that experience was good, but one thing I've just kind of watching this offense and hearing Coach Dawson speak, and I've talked a lot about the tight end position in terms of their production, and it's not been the high numbers that we've seen, even after Arroyo left. We've just not seen that production, but I still think the tight end is important, and this is something I'm going to keep in mind, something I definitely want to share. But it's not just about the receptions for the tight ends, but because of this offense, the way it's shaped in this progression offense that Dawson likes to run, the tight end is involved in the progressions, and they have to. Sometimes you have to run the good routes, and sometimes it doesn't go to you; it goes to somebody else. But I still think the tight end is going to be in there. Even when people talk about the wide receivers, there's better wide receivers. Why not just go 4 wide? Why not go empty? Even 5 out there, and go pure empty. And they could definitely do that. I think they could do it in packages. I just think the tight end is going to be involved. So with that, Elijah Lofton, a lot of pressure on him to have a better year. He's lost a little bit of weight, so we'll see how he does. But it really comes down. I think they're going to have to play 2 tight ends like they've been doing, at least 2. So who's going to step up in that other role? I thought Gavin Mueller made a really nice catch today, a freshman, that showed signs in the spring. But can a freshman tight end make a big impact? Can he learn the playbook well enough? Israel Briggs, another freshman that has shown positive signs. But, will they be able to take on those 2 spots there, or that number 2 role, as a tight end? Or will it be someone like Jackson Carver, been around the program, dealt with an injury, looking to be back and healthy? Will he be able to kind of fill that role with what they need there at that tight end spot, essentially that second tight end spot, somebody that really can do a lot of different things with route running and obviously with blocking, all the things that tight ends do. But I think it's really important that they have a number 2 guy step up. I think it's a big loss. I think it's a big loss with Luka Gilbert, and even though that might not seem like it will be, because they've got all these other pieces. You can run the ball with all the backs that they have, or they can throw to all the wide receivers. But I just think when you're thinking about kind of building out an offense or game day kind of offense, the tight end's heavily involved, and losing a number 2 with not a real clear backup at this point is a big thing. Other big announcement that came out is Coach Criswell said that defensive end Hayden Lowe will not be a part of this team. He was not at media day, obviously didn't see him out here today at practice, but he was at summer workouts recently. So he's not going to be a part of the team. And Coach Criswell just said they're mutually parting ways and they'll move on without him. He wasn't a part of last year's team because of injury, so it's not a big loss in that sense. But he was someone that I thought had a bright future. I thought he could be a really good pass rusher even this year without the experience of last year. So they're going to have to, pass rushers are going to have to step up. I look at Marquise Lightfoot. Everybody's expecting big things out of him, who recently changed his number to 8. But Lightfoot's going to be a guy that has to be productive with his pass rushing ability, especially with what they might do at defensive end on the other spot with Armando Blunt. So we'll see. But whoever's holding that spot there, Damon Wilson obviously is going to be the guy. But whoever kind of has that next spot really needs to be able to produce. And they've got to, or if Lightfoot's going to be on the other edge spot there, it just depends. But, Herbert Scroggins, when you talk about a guy kind of moving up or getting elevated. And third is a guy that they had last year who got in some reps throughout the season, and a guy that they showed signs of believing in. So we'll see how he does. He's certainly going to be a part of it too. As well. There's a lot of returners with this team, of a lot of spots essentially set in stone, but definitely on the offensive line, it's the position to watch in my mind, because of not a lot of experience coming back and guys shuffling positions. It looks like Samson Okunlola is going to start off at left tackle. Jackson Cantwell was there in the spring while Samson was out with the shoulder injury, but now Samson's back. He's at left tackle, at least for right now. And certainly the way they do things, they're going to kind of move him, or move all the guys between guard and tackle, get plenty of experience. But, Jackson said he doesn't know where he's going to be, whether it's guard or tackle. So obviously a lot of his experience is at tackle, though. So we'll see kind of how that shakes out. They got Matt McCoy at right tackle, still looking there. And they got Max Buchanan looking to take that right guard spot. You got Ryan Rodriguez at center. And then that left guard, you could put Cantwell there. Or if they want to move Samson in, I think that we'll just kind of see how that goes. And, they also have SJ, Olafai Tuli can also kind of fit in there at the left guard spot like we've seen since he's been here. So a little bit of a battle, a little bit of some shuffling that they could still do between all the guys, and I think it makes it interesting because Samson and McCoy last year split time at left guard, and the way it looks right now, neither of them are going to be at left guard. So that definitely shakes everything up. So we'll see, though. I think it's going to be definitely something to watch for all fall camp. I thought Alex Mirabal, usually speaks with a lot of confidence. I didn't stick around for all of his interview at media day, but it definitely came across that he didn't feel as confident. That was just my takeaway. Again, I wasn't there for the whole interview, but definitely even a little combative, with some of the questions that didn't make sense to me. I think it's just very matter of fact, and they could just say, we'll see how things go in fall camp. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that as much as we're able to be out here, but I'm sure everybody is very curious. I don't think it's a given that this offensive line plays to the level that last year's did. I think that only makes sense. Now, can they get better throughout the season? That's obviously what you're hoping for with all the positions, but especially the offensive line. But really curious to see how that shakes out throughout fall camp. And then another position that I'm really curious to see how it goes during fall camp, a little bit different, or a lot different, because there's experience there, and that's the cornerback spot. To me, I said in the spring, I really feel like the best two corners on this team are going to be O.J. Frederick and Xavier Lucas. I think they're operating that way. And then that's where it gets interesting. I do think Ethan O'Connor is going to be in the mix. I think he's right there, kind of as that number 3 right now. And then, I know this might surprise some people, but I think Jabari Antoine right there is the 4th corner. I think Damari Brown has an uphill battle to gain playing time, to really get in the mix. Look, I think that, again, that might surprise some people because he did play well in spurts last year. But I just think about Damari, just how the last 2 seasons have ended with him not being able to be out there at the end of seasons. I don't think that's a good sign for him, and just he's got to battle through some stuff and battle through these guys that are more reliable, that have been more productive. So we'll see how things go with Damari, but not everybody can be out there, and somebody's going to be the odd man out. And I think with Antoine, with what kind of he showed last year, and he's being reliable and doing everything he needs to be out here. And I did see Damari today going through some individual drills, but when I was watching team drills, I didn't see him. Could have missed him. We're obviously not out there all the time, but I want to see him, be productive and kind of earn a spot and really get himself back into the mix, because again, I think he's right now, I just don't see it with him. And just wrapping things up a little bit here, plenty of interviews from Media Day. Already posted the channel. I posted 14 videos on the first day. I've got more to get to. A lot of interviews that you guys can go through, and some of them I conducted on my own, some one-on-one, some of it's group. The way it is, it's 2 hours in there, so we're trying to get as much as possible, and people kind of rotate in on interview groups. I've seen people talk about the questions are repeated. Well, that's because they weren't there for the beginning part of the interview. That just we kind of bounce around. But anyways, Bryce Fitzgerald, had a chance to talk with him, and he said Coach Will Harris wants his group to really put an emphasis on takeaways and have a number of takeaways, and that's a really big part for them. And I had a chance to talk with Coach Harris about that, and his goal is 3 per day. They want 3 takeaways per day. That's his goal. That's something that they've done throughout, and they look forward to kind of continuing that throughout fall camp. And Bryce is up to 193 pounds. He put a point of emphasis on gaining strength in the off season. And look, in the spring, he was working at that nickel spot. I expect him to be there now too. He spoke about that at Media Day, and he really paid a lot of attention to what Keontae Scott was doing. He's watched a lot of film on him. I think it's a good spot for him. Bryce is a playmaker. I really like him in that spot. If you follow these videos, I talked about it in the spring, so that's good to see. I thought Bryce had a really nice pass breakup today. He was guarding Malachi Toney on a one-on-one, and Malachi ran just a quick out to the sideline. And usually, and earlier in practice, Malachi catches those, very easily. And Bryce made a diving pass breakup, really kind of got his thumb down, it looked like. I kind of remember my old high school basketball coach when you're trying to deflect a pass there. That's what it looked like. Bryce got in there, did a really good job breaking it up, so a good sign there. But again, Bryce is going to be a key point for this team and kind of big for these takeaways as well. But stay tuned to the channel. Again, I've got more interviews to post. We have plenty of content here. I've got some video clips from practice I'll post as well. But this is always a good time because back out here again. But this is a good time for me to thank everybody for watching the video, following the channel, subscribing, sharing the videos, discussing it in the comments. Definitely want to hear what you guys are thinking about this team, and maybe some things to focus on that would be good for me to watch, that you guys are very curious about in fall camp, because there's tons of positions. I didn't get to everybody, obviously, but looking forward to being back out here again tomorrow for day 2 and keep this thing going. But thanks for watching. Have a good rest of the day, and take care.